Welcome to another Bandology interview. Bandology is a Canadian nonprofit dedicated to more music for more kids via education, collaboration, and community.
Hi everyone, my name is Naukul and I'm the Music and Performance Coordinator at Bandology. Today I'm here with David Tabone, who is the co-founder of the Tabone Academy of Music. The Tabone Academy is located in Hamilton, Ontario, and they're a music school that started in September 2020. How are you doing today, David?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for coming.
Great. And thanks for having us on your program.
So to get us started, can you tell us a little bit about the Tabone Academy of Music and what kind of programs your school offers?
Yeah, well, the Tabone Academy of Music is now into its completion of its first year. Come this September, it'll be our anniversary of our very first year. And the premise behind this basic music academy was an extension of my experiences in teaching in the Hamilton-Wentworth Catholic District School Board. I'm entering my 33rd year of teaching. And over the course of 30 years of teaching, I would constantly have parents asking me, where should I send my students for music lessons? Where should I send my kids for music lessons? And my wife is also with the board, and she does elementary music. So we had this idea that we should put together our own music school. And that's what happened. Of course, pre-pandemic, we had it all planned out, and we had found the perfect location in Hamilton, and we have it all up and running. And provided that COVID doesn't shut us down again, it's a green light moving forward.
Wow, that's really exciting. And hopefully everything will go smoothly with COVID.
Yes, I'm hoping.
So can you tell us a little bit about your background in music?
Always a working musician, playing in clubs and bars as a late teenager. And then I entered the University of Western Ontario music program with the focus on music education. So I completed my degree at Western, and then I went to U of T for Teachers College. And I was hired right away out of Teachers College by the Hamilton-Wentworth Catholic District School Board. Started off at a school called Cardinal Newman. It had a pretty successful music program, but I was like the junior music teacher on the team. And then I worked my way up the ladder through some retirements and some transfers from other teachers. So I spent about 8 or 9 years at a school called Cardinal Newman. And then a department headship came up for arts, and it was at the school I'm at now at Bishop Ryan. So I was the successful candidate. And when I went to Bishop Ryan in 1999, because I was sort of in charge of the arts, I had a lot more, I guess, I had the ability to really push the program forward. So we built a massive program at Bishop Ryan, and today we have 3 full-time music teachers. We have roughly 18 music classes that run per year, which is quite substantial. It's almost 3 times what most schools tend to have. And we have a busy co-curricular program. We have a concert band, a jazz band. We have a drum line, and we have, I guess, my greatest claim of fame would be our Bishop Ryan Xpression, we call it, the BR Xpression, which is a massive vocal ensemble of roughly 250 to 350 students. And that's where I sit today. I'm still an active musician. I'm working in the community. I have a dance band called Reflection. I do a lot of jazz trio work and quartet work. And I also have a wonderful working relationship with Boris Brott in the National Academy Orchestra. Boris Brott is a Canadian icon in as a maestro, and he has called upon our school for the last 10, 15 years to partner with his orchestra to be the choral portion, especially for his contemporary programs.
That's amazing that you have so many activities going on. And it's also wonderful to hear that your school has so many options available for students and such a wide diversity of programs available.
Yeah, the thing that makes the Tabone Academy unique, and I think I kind of showed you around, is that we have a full stage here with a digital grand piano, keyboards, full light show, light system. I'm giving you a little runaround. But the cool thing is we have a cafe, which for our parents, when they bring their students for lessons, they actually can sit down and have a dessert or a coffee. So that was one of there's threefold at the Tabone Academy. Obviously, the first thing is the lesson center. And of course, we offer lessons in voice, piano, all the main instruments, including violin and cello. But we have the stage, which is something that's different than most traditional music schools, in that students can develop their skill in the classroom and then come right out to the stage and perform for their parents almost on a nightly basis.
Yeah, that's definitely really unique and very valuable, I'm sure, for your students to have that kind of opportunity to perform frequently in front of other people.
Yeah, we were not, I've always, especially because we have a big theater at our school, we were constantly, we'd rent out our theater to like typical music schools, and they would have a recital once a year. And I'm sure you're aware of that. And then they would have a recital, and parents would come and the students would get maybe 40 seconds to a minute and a half on stage. They'd have this small performance opportunity. And that would be it, maybe often for the year. It'd be the end of the year recital. But our goal is to really make performance a big thing. So these students have an opportunity to come out on our stage and perform almost weekly. And then what we do, again, provided that the pandemic allows this, our goal is to have monthly student showcases on stage. So they will get a night and they can bring out all their family and they can essentially do a gig. It would be their gig on stage.
Yeah, that's really great. And it's also a great opportunity for parents, I'm sure, who enjoy listening to their children perform.
Yeah,
so that's really awesome.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So who are some of the major influences and mentors that you've had throughout your music career?
Geez. That, I've always loved performing. So I call upon like the masters and probably the style that I respected the most. And I don't mean, I respect all styles, but the one that challenged me the most was jazz. So I used jazz as my, that platform as my desire to become better. And my principal instrument is a piano player. So most of my influences from a musician point of view came from the jazz masters, including someone like Chick Corea, who just passed away. But it depended on, what in education, I had a wonderful teacher who was my first department head. And I often said that building a music program is very political. You have to make sure that you promote. And he was my first teacher when I got hired at Cardinal Newman. His name was Vince Di Gregorio. Maybe he's listening. But I learned a lot from Vince, actually, in his way of really getting music out to the parents. And that was my philosophy for building the BR Xpression, because we went really, I was really an advocate for getting lots of students involved. So that's why our group, our BR Xpression, typically has around 300 students in it. And then what we do is we audition those students to become soloists within the group. So if you're just in it to be a part of the group, that was my, you would be in the group. But if you wanted to be the superstar, you would have to audition to get to be able to hold the microphone as a soloist. So I learned that from Vince as an influence, and then I always used my craft. Anybody I would go out to a lot of the the festivals, the Ontario Vocal Festival, where a member of the OMEA, and see some other really established groups, and I would use them all as mentors, and I'd say, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to really work hard at building a program. And that made me who I am today as a musician.
Wow, that's really cool. So what inspired you to create the Tabone Academy?
Well, again, I think the biggest thing was, it's funny, it's a wonderful story. In fact, we were driving out to Toronto, and I had my daughter and my son in the back and my wife in the front. And my son is really into fitness. And just as a side note, we've all become plant-based. So we're all not eating meat. And My son, he was into fitness, and he graduated with his diploma in fitness and education. My other daughter, the one I'm talking about, is also a qualified teacher, but she had a lot of momentum in business and stuff like that. And my wife and I were driving to Toronto, and it was funny, and we were saying we should open a music school. And my son said, well, we should open a cafe that serves plant-based food. And my daughter was saying, well, you know what, I love live music because they have a business. We should put a stage in the business and have a full out stage so we can do events on weekends. So pretty well by the journey home from Toronto, we had the business model set that we were going to have a music school with like a cafe and a stage. And that's how the Tabone Academy really came to be. And it wasn't long before parents started discovering, after 30 years in education, that we had this opportunity, and they started registering for our school.
That's really great, and it's really interesting that you chose to combine all these different things that make a great music school.
Yeah, I think it's just our premise was really to create a cool vibe. So most people walk through the front door, and they come in and they say, wow, this doesn't really look, we weren't expecting this. They were looking at, many music schools are like, a dentist office almost. You go in, there's a waiting room, and then they go into the back and they get their lesson and they leave. We wanted it to be different than that. And we also have a full basement with a jam room downstairs with 2 drum sets and PA system and all that stuff.
Yeah, that sounds really amazing. And I see that you have lots of instruments back there behind you.
I can show you all these. Another thing that was pretty cool was I got all these instruments hanging on the wall, and those instruments were designed. I can even turn lights on. I don't know if this has become an interactive meeting, but the instruments were designed were actually all old instruments, like you can see guitars, etc. They were basically broken. I've got saxophones on the wall, and these instruments themselves were broken, and I would send them in to get repaired. And they would, I'm sure you're a musician yourself, they would say, I can't repair that instrument, it's garbage. Let's take, for example, a saxophone, and they say it needs a complete overhaul, it's bent, the neck's out of shape, so it's garbage. And I would look at it and say, I can't throw that instrument out, it's a work of art, right? So then I started collecting all broken instruments, and then I designed them into artwork. So when kids come in, they're surrounded by instruments. And then I think it inspires them a little bit to say, I want to take that. And then another neat thing about our program at the Tabone Academy is you can go 4 weeks, 8 weeks, or 12 weeks. And some students actually are going 4 weeks of piano, and then they go 4 weeks of vocal. And then they decide on, hey, I like a little bit of both. And some of them are even taking double instruments per week. So it's not like they have to commit to a teacher and an instrument for the entire year. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really creative way of using instruments, and also a creative way of letting students kind of discover maybe what works best for them.
Absolutely, yes. And I think that's something that the parents like, because they don't have to commit long term, like for an entire year. And we've hired some amazing teachers. We have about a staff of 12 or 13. And the onus is on the teachers really to continue motivating their student. And the evidence comes forward when they re-register with that teacher every 4 weeks or every 8 weeks. Then we know that our teachers are doing a good job because the kids are really happy.
Yeah, definitely. So can you tell us a little bit about your rock camp that's coming up?
Yeah, so our rock camp has been around for about at least over 10 years. And our rock camp is kind of like a taste test of every instrument that you can imagine. So we get, right now we have 22 students coming up, and we start off the day with percussion. So we all have drum pads and drumsticks. So they learn all the rudiments of the standard percussion techniques. And then we do ukulele, and then we do guitar, and then we do some keyboard, and we usually end the day with some vocal stuff. And then what happens is, the beginning of the week, we will start finding out the level of talent we have at the camp. And then on the Friday, we always put a show on. So the goal by the end of the Friday is to put on a concert for the parents. So that's how the rock camp works. By Monday, and time flies. Monday morning, we meet the kids, and by the end of Friday, they're putting on a show.
Wow, that's really great that you offer an opportunity for really intensive learning, I guess, in a short period of time, and for students to explore many different instruments.
Yeah. So a lot of them will come in, and it's great because they'll come in having no experience. Let's say they came in rock camp to sing, and then they really dig the drumming part of it, and then they register for drum lessons and they never thought in a million years they'd want to take drums, but then they get the drum thing happening. They want to do that.
Yeah, that's really cool. So, what are some of your favorite moments so far since opening the Tabone Academy?
Well, I'd have to say Halloween was cool. And again, we haven't really had a whole lot of chance to move through the seasons and develop momentum. Like Christmas would have been cool, but we were locked down just a little bit before Christmas. But Halloween was neat because I think, if I recall correctly, we were in a pretty good phase. And remember, we had the phases, red phase and blue, and I'm not blue, we were red, orange, and yellow, I think. So we were still able to perform. So we had the place decorated really nicely for Halloween. It was really cool, and especially the stage, and we had the smoke and the haze going, and kids were getting up and they were dressed in their costumes, and that was kind of fun. Christmas would have been great if we didn't have the issues with lockdown and stuff like that, but probably the Halloween experience here at Tabone Academy was one of the better experiences so far.
Yeah, and I'm sure you guys will have lots of great Christmas performances once COVID is finally done.
Yeah. One of our objectives is to have annual evenings on the stage. It's I don't know if you can tell, it's quite a big space we have here. So our goal is to have like blues clinics or like piano clinics or jazz clinics where you'd have like professional artists come in, and there'd be a ticketed event at the door, so they'd pay a cover. And then we want to do, as I said, student showcases, but we also want to start doing open mic nights and jam with the band nights for community people. So if you like almost like a karaoke, but we don't want it to be a traditional karaoke. We want it to be performed with a live band. So you come out, pick your tracks, and you play with the live band or pick your songs. So those are all kind of the things that we have, we want to make happen. And we're just clapping our hands together for vaccinations and people get involved, get protected so that we can keep the city open.
Yeah, you guys have some really exciting plans. I can't wait, because it's really great that you have all these ideas to incorporate the community as part of your music school as well. Yeah,
it's great. We also have the city council. One of our counselors for the district is also a huge advocate for us right now. So he's really pushing it. We're in a nice big plaza here, and I think it's good for the community. I think music education is always a positive for everybody around you, and they're happy that we're in the plaza, and they're happy that we have our school open, because it's a nice thing for the neighborhood.
Yeah, absolutely. So why is music education important to you?
Well, that's a loaded question, but I think music changes lives in so many different ways. And I've seen students who, having experienced very, frightened, nervous students come into my program, and I'm referencing high school mostly now, let's say in grade 9, and then they're just flourishing by the end of grade 12 because they've been involved in a music program, and they've made, tons of friends and things like that. And music education, I think, when I teach a class, there's this poster called Why Teach Music. I don't know if you've seen it. And it basically goes through all the subcategories of, music is, physical education, music is math, music is science, music is history, music is foreign language, and it goes through all of them. But the number one thing is that music is art, and music makes you feel and makes you become expressive, right? And none of those other disciplines really make you feel. And I do believe that students, and we have a wonderful track record of students coming to our school and never leaving our room, and other classes are going on, and they just want to be in the music room all the time. And I think that's what music education does, is it gives a safe zone for so many people and so many students, because it makes them feel comfortable for the most part.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure a lot of people are recognizing during COVID how much value music education provides in their lives.
Yeah, I don't think they realized, none of us realized how much music mattered. And it's funny, you should mention that, because just the prevalence of instruments being purchased around the community. Very good friends with Long McQuaid Music, and you couldn't even order a guitar or find a keyboard 6 months ago, because during COVID, people were locked in their homes. So they all bought instruments, and they all stayed at home and learned how to play an instrument. And we found that was, something that was certainly developed during COVID. But of course, the biggest problem with COVID, and I hate to use that term COVID or the pandemic, was that it pulled us away from live music. So tomorrow night will be my very first live performance. Well, no, it's not true. I did one on Canada Day, but tomorrow night I'm actually playing a bar, which I said I would not do again. But I'm going to play a bar. I don't know. I broke down, and it's outdoor patio thing. But live music is starting to come back, which is great. And I think it brings joy to everybody's face when they go out and they can hear some live music, right? So music does change lives.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you have any advice to young musicians who maybe want to run a music school someday?
To other musicians who want to run a music school? Well, I think I don't know what advice I'd give to them, other than to, you have to have a great business plan, firstly, and without doubt, you need to have a lot of students. So you have to go out, network, market, and even ourselves at this point, we have done very little, if any, advertising, because we don't want to. It's hard to take out radio broadcasting or newspaper print ads or etc., because it's hard to promote something and not be 100% sure if it's going to happen, because we may get shut down. So I'm looking forward to, and anybody else who wanted to start a business, I mean, obviously you need to know that you're going to be able to open and remain open to promote your business, right? So probably my greatest advice would be not to open a business during a pandemic. That would be step 2. And then once you're open, then you've got to promote. You got to promote.
That is some great advice. So we talked a little bit about some of the plans that you have, but do you have any other maybe exciting plans or new projects that your school has coming up?
Well, it's funny. We're trying my BR Xpression and our jazz band, etc. We compete every year. We travel usually to the United States, and we were supposed to go to Chicago, and that was canceled. We usually bring 4 bus loads of students. This year, we're probably going to go and perform and compete at a festival in Nashville. So that's my high school plans, provided that we're allowed to do it. We don't know if we're allowed to travel, if we're allowed to have a full group. Our goals within our academy, so that's the high school goal. The goal within the academy is just to really register as many students as we can, so they can see this wonderful facility and meet our wonderful teachers. And then come have a wonderful cafe latte, sit on a beautiful couch and hear their sons or daughters or themselves or friends get on stage and start making music come alive. And we want to do that as much as possible, and to do these community events on weekends.
Those are some really exciting plans. So before we finish off the interview, I'm going to ask you some fast 5 questions. So these are basically like rapid fire style questions.
Sure. On your mark,
so the first question is your favorite movie soundtrack.
Geez, you know what? 2 of them. There's one called a movie called Platoon, which is really old. It's an older movie, but it features a song, the Adagio for Strings by Samuel Barber, which is beautiful. But I'd probably say the one that's the most I love the soundtrack was Schindler's List. I don't know if you know that movie. gorgeous orchestral tracks.
Yeah, absolutely. The second question is an instrument that you wish you played.
Wow, you know what I play? I hate to say that I play them all, but I play all the school instruments. I've never played the harp, and I don't know if I could even get my hands on a harp, but that's one instrument that I really have to say because I went through double reeds, all brass, all saxophones, all the stringed instruments, but I've never played a harp. So there you go, maybe a harp.
Yeah, that's definitely something I would like to play as well.
Yeah, cool.
The third question is your favorite song.
Oh, God. You know what? I'm going to say this for my father-in-law just passed away. He was an amazing singer, and I play it all the time, and it's probably one of the most beautiful melodies, a song called Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
That's definitely a classic.
Yes.
So the fourth question is your musical inspiration growing up.
Oh, God. Again, that's not it. I can't even put my finger on a certain person. I remember as a developing rock star, my brother was a guitarist. My brother Greg Tabone was a great guitarist, and he used to play Rush. And I remember listening to the band Rush. I went through this major Rush phase, but those are bands. Those aren't individuals. Maybe as a pianist, the first person who really just blew me away was a guy called Oscar Peterson at the piano. And he was probably my greatest piano influence.
Yeah, he's definitely a Canadian jazz legend.
Yes, absolutely.
So the last question I have is, what's your hidden talent?
Oh, my hidden talent. Geez, I should have prepared for this one. I don't think I have. I'm not going to say cooking because that's not very good. I don't have a hidden talent. Being quiet is a talent that I'm not very good at. That doesn't even make sense. I don't even know if I have a hidden talent. Actually, I'm going to tell you this, and this is probably the truth. I'm actually quite good in art. And I mean like sketching. And I never really sketch, but when I do sketch, people say, wow, that's amazing. So I'm going to say that. I wish I prepared that thought earlier, but I'm going to say art, visual art, sketching, hidden talent.
That's definitely a great hidden talent to have. Is there anything in particular that you like sketching, or just anything?
You know, and I think I'm best, and again, I never even took art in school, but I think I'm best with paper pencil, just and looking at objects. Like I can, you know, I'm looking at an accordion there on my wall. I probably could sketch that quite well, or a piano, or an instrument, or a guitar, or a flower. So those are the kind of things that I'm pretty decent at.
That's really cool. All right, well, thank you so much for joining us today, David. It was so great to hear all about your school and about the plans that you guys have.
Thank you for having me. Tabone Academy of Music, located at 969 Upper Ottawa in Hamilton. If you Google the name Tabone, Tabone, you'll get my high school stuff, but you'll also get the Tabone Academy stuff there as well.
Great.
Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for coming. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And we hope to see you next time. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Thanks for joining us. If you like what you heard, you can learn more about our organization at bandology.ca, which features information about music education, advocacy and research, and our Play a Gig and Bandcamp programs. Follow us on social media for more videos, performance, and interviews on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.